I'm Neil and welcome to Dreaming of Chess Mastery, a YouTube channel that focuses on the world of adult chess improvement. I thought, seeing as March has whizzed by, I'd do a bit of a review of how things are going. One of the things I have been working on is trying to measure what I'm doing a little bit more. And draw conclusions from that. If the training that I'm doing or the approach that I'm taking isn't actually working well, then there's no real harm done, just change it around. But to continually do the same thing, if it's not actually taking you anywhere, well, that might be questionable. So, how did I fare in March? Well, on the playing side, the area that I'm, I suppose, taking most seriously are my 15-minute with 10-second rapid games that I play. I also play some blitz, but that frankly is just entertainment and distraction. So far there's no possibility of over-the-board chess for me, or longer format games. Well, I'd like to try that on the internet, but it seems harder to find opponents, and also I need to get more of a grip on my daily schedule. So for the moment, it's the rapid games. And what happened last month? Well, not much. I didn't play as many games as I would have liked. And my rating dropped a whole 9 points. So I pretty much stayed where I was. And actually, I wasn't too disappointed because there were two games that quite clearly I was perhaps a little unfortunate. Now, I can hear people tut-tutting that, okay, let's hear the excuses. But one was my internet connection. And it was a game that I'm pretty certain I would have won. But my connection kept on going. So once I realized that it was sort of wavering, I had to move progressively faster and faster. And my time just evaporated in the time it took to regain a connection, and I ended up losing on time in a quite obviously winning position. So that was a bit unlucky. And there was another game that I played when perhaps I realised I shouldn't have, and at the end I'd reached a completely drawn king and pawn ending, but my time had run short. Now, that's not unlucky. That's something that I need to think about. Time management is obviously part of the game. And I was also, maybe a little blasé saying a pawn ending, which I believe was clearly drawn. And it was. But perhaps there's a lesson to be learned there, that although with a few minutes more I would have drawn it, I made an obviously losing move. But perhaps that hints at work that needs to be done on pawn endings to make certain things move into the category of automaticity, playing by hand rather than head or calculation. But no real problem. The games taught me a lot, and it's part of a process. I guess the other area that I measure, I've been working, the most sort of structured training I've been doing is using the Woodpecker Method. And my puzzle sort of recognition in that context is going along very well. How do you test that? Well, one is to take a careful look at the games and see if I'm missing clear tactics, and perhaps I still am. And the other is to measure tactical recognition of puzzles. And again, I do 3 chess.com puzzles a day, and that's rated. And what happened there? Well, my rating dropped a little bit, 30 points. It sort of fluctuates. But what I did this month is I started noting the mistakes and categorizing them in a much more detailed, forensic sort of way. And what came out clearly is, I suppose, of the 30 or so puzzles that I got wrong over the month, out of the 93 that I did, 3 of them were for missing quite obscure and pretty mating patterns, and another 3 of them were where I really didn't see the point of the problem. I sort of went down a false path. So that's 20% of the puzzles I got wrong through what could probably be described as knowledge, ability, technique, skill. The other puzzles I got wrong for a variety of reasons. Prominent amongst them was rushing. And I'm not trying to solve these against the clock. I'm trying to solve them. And if it takes me 5 minutes and I don't get as many rating points, I really don't care. The issue is solving them. So rushing them is a sort of psychological flaw. Another reason that featured prominently was simply not looking at all the possible, for example, from an attacking perspective, checks that I could do. Or from a defensive point of view, simply not analysing all potential blocks. And those are things that, in a puzzle, of course you analyse possible checks. The old adage, you never know, it might be mate. And I wasn't doing that. And when you make a check, you have to look at all the possible moves. And again, I wasn't doing that either. And that is not because I can't. It's not like a visualization thing where you have difficulty seeing something because it's 6 moves into the line. These are situations where it's the first move in the case of the checks very often for me. So that is something that I need to examine more closely this month and see if there's a deeper underlying root cause, and also to look at, which I haven't done yet, the tactical mistakes that I made in my games. Is there a pattern there, and do the two match up? Now, looking at the progress on the whole, I didn't move forward. Am I simply wasting my time doing these tactical puzzles? And I perhaps, the quick answer for people would be, well, yes. You've been doing this Woodpecker Method. You've done hundreds and hundreds of problems and made no tangible progress. This month, what was the point? Well, it could be that I simply haven't seen the progress yet because I'm still absorbing the lessons. And George Leonard, in his wonderful book that I've spoken about before, Mastery, talks about how we need to love being on the plateau. And at the moment, I am at a plateau. In chess.com terms, I'm at a plateau between, I suppose, 2040 and 2090. And I float around in that area, those 50 points. And with my puzzles, I sort of float between 2,900 and 2,350. And that's fine. I'm on that plateau. George Leonard says, learn to love the plateau, and that's what I must do. I must keep chipping away. I think I am going to start doing a different set of tactical puzzles. I'm going to give the Woodpecker Method a break, partly because I've come to the end of a cycle. I will come to the end of a cycle tomorrow, and it's a good moment to move on and do something else. And I will come back to that. It's when you read his Woodpecker Method and you read between the lines, Hans Tikkanen, who co-wrote the book, a Swedish grandmaster, and benefited enormously from this approach, he finished all the puzzles in one day. And let it be said, that book is a tome containing 1,100 chess problems. So to do all of those in one day, that's a lot of study. And other master strength players who followed the method, they were on a regime of doing 4 hours of tactical problem solving a day. Well, I'm not doing that. I think one big gain I made last month was that I upped the amount of study, constructive study. I mean, I'm doing other things. If I play Blitz, I don't count that. And the books that I read in the evening before I go to sleep, I'm not counting that either. That's kind of, I'm not saying it's pointless, but it's not dedicated chess study. And I've reached now about an hour and a half a day. And I need to push that out more, and perhaps then I'll see greater progress. But I do believe that one should approach, for example, something like the Woodpecker Method, bearing in mind where you are in the food chain. And I'm not an aspirant grandmaster, and I don't think I ever will be, but I certainly aren't at the moment. And I'm not trying to crack some sort of rating threshold, playing 100 over-the-board rated games a year, or 200, as some of these players are doing. So I'm not in that category. I'm an amateur. I'm dabbling, but I'm on the mastery path. So perhaps it's time to look at a different sort of avenue for problem solving. And I have an idea, and I'll talk about that in the weeks to come. But I'm loving the plateau. I'm loving the process. I'm certainly learning things, and I'm certainly having fun. And what more can one ask for as an amateur chess player? So that's it for this week. That's a summary of March. Trust you're enjoying your chess and keeping well. And until next week, from an overcast Brazil, ciao.